Good people, what is going on? Another episode of the All Go Podcast. Please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, even if you don't agree with what I have to say. It helps the channel. I recently just crossed 50 subscribers, which is a very big deal to me because I am pretty new to this. So thanks so much for everyone who has subscribed, and I appreciate it. Anyway, I want to talk about the Michigan-Iowa game that happened yesterday, noon kickoff. And this was a game that both schools, I'd imagine, had circled on their calendars for different reasons. I think for Iowa, they were looking at that, hoping to have the Kinnick Stadium kind of juju or mystique help them out against a pretty good, team. Michigan is the defending Big Ten champs and went to the playoff. So I think Iowa was hoping for a big upset. They've had a lot of success playing Michigan at Kinnick Stadium. So, and then for Michigan, they had it circled because it was the first road game of the season, right? The first, what I think people would call real test of, to see what it is that this Michigan team's going to be. You had the first Big Ten game was against Maryland. That was a home game. And I think Maryland ended up being better than what we thought they were. But also, it was a game that most people thought that Michigan would win that game. So ends up winning. And with the game, what I would say is two things can be true. The first thing that is true is Michigan fans should be really excited with how their team played and beating a team like Iowa. They came out and handled business. The game wasn't ever really in question. It did get close at times, but I don't think the game was in question at any point of the game. So that's the first thing. I think Michigan fans should feel good about that win. Put 27 points on Iowa. It's a pretty good defense. Some would say elite. I would not. And you end up giving up 14 points, and one of the touchdowns was pretty late in the game, but nonetheless, you held them to 14. You score 27. It's a pretty darn good thing. But the second thing that can also be true is Michigan should come out of that game feeling like they left some points out on the field, because I think they did. You had JJ had missed the deep shot to Roman Wilson. That was an easy touchdown. They just didn't connect. And Michigan also had some iffy play calling. I think, if I'm being picky, especially when it comes to kind of the red zone area, where they had like a 3rd and 4, and Michigan ended up running like a speed option into the boundary. And it didn't, number one, it didn't look like a play that they've run a lot. And number two, it just wasn't executed well at a high level. And they ended up playing for getting a field goal. And I feel like part of the reason that they went a little conservative was because they did know that Iowa was so limited on offense to where, you're a couple touchdowns, 17 points, 20 points, and, this game is over. I mean, Iowa's offense has been struggling to even put one touchdown on the board. So I think that had something to do with it. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to get to that point where you just put the pedal to the metal. And when you have an opportunity to close a team out and just shut the door on them, especially when you're more talented than, you need to do it. Now, obviously, Iowa's limited, but I mean, it was what, 20 to 7 at one point, I think. And you just never know. It's college football. It's crazy. And I think as Michigan is trying to make that transition from being a really good team, a really good program, to an elite team, those are the types of things that you have to get used to doing. You've got to shut the door on teams. You've got to be able to put them away, especially if you can do it early. Because if JJ hits that Roman Wilson pass, I believe that makes the score 14-0. And I mean, that's you can close the case on Iowa. So we'll see what happens. Michigan has Indiana next week. I think they'll be just fine in that game, and then they have Penn State, which should be a pretty interesting matchup. So we shall see what happens. Yeah, that's it for me. Appreciate it. Peace.